All right.
So everyone loves this question, by the way.
Why don't you just start by telling me what you think about abortion?
I think about
Go from
abortion.
there.
Well, what I think about abortion is I think abortion is morally wrong, but I think it's certain situations where we sit in, especially nowadays, where it's easy to be in that situation where you don't want to have a baby or a kid.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I think it's morally wrong if you chose to do that action that you so-called went through yourself and chose to do, and then want to not keep that baby. Like, you went through that action. I think you should pay that consequence. But there is like I said, the stick to that. Like, a lot of people, they have things that happen to them that, no one wants to happen to them.
Yeah.
So especially at like I'm stuttering.
Young age.
A young age, right? So it's like, if something happens to me at a young age and I don't want to keep that baby, or I don't want to have that thing, do you think I should still be prosecuted for an abortion that I literally cannot keep? Like, for example, let's say I knew about a case where someone was 10 years old that has sexually assaulted.
Yep.
Like, should that be allowed to happen?
The sexual assault, of course, shouldn't
Well,
be
of course
allowed to happen.
not,
We
but
both
like
agree on
the
that.
abortion.
But the child in the womb is equally human, equally a person, and I think should be equally protected. Now, if you have a 10-year-old who gets pregnant as a consequence of sexual assault or rape, I think the rapist should be given the death penalty. But the child didn't do anything wrong. Both children didn't do anything wrong. The child in the womb and the child who's 10, who's also now a mother.
Yeah.
And so I don't believe we should punish the child in the womb for the crime of his or her father. Instead, in that situation, there's probably going to be some medical complications because the child's so young. And so it's possible that you could have a circumstance where in order to save the life of the 10-year-old mother, you have to separate the child's body from her own prior to viability or early enough to where the child may die shortly after the C-section as a consequence of us just not having the technology to keep the child alive.
So the baby shouldn't be fully formed yet, what you're saying, pretty much.
Kind of. So if we don't have the technology to keep the child alive after separating the child from the mother's body in order to save the life of the mother, then I don't think anyone should be prosecuted. And it's a tragedy. But that's very different from if the 10-year-old mother and her parents or whoever is with her decide there's no medical complications yet, we don't anticipate medical complications, or if we do, we think it would be at a stage where the child would be viable. And so even though this child could live, we're going to choose to intentionally take the life of the child. In that situation, I think that anyone who is a responsible party for the death of the innocent child in the womb should be prosecuted on murder charges. Because it's equally human, equally a person, equally made in the image of God.
Okay. So you believe like that mother should bear that responsibility of being a mother, even at that age?
She's already a mother. So the question is simply, is she going to be the mother of a dead child murdered by abortion? Or is she going to be a mother who loves her child and does everything she can to protect and care for her child? And this would also apply to the grandparents who are probably going to be involved if it's the case of a 10-year-old.
Yeah, of course.
And the question for them is, do they want dead grandchildren or do they want to care for and love their grandchild that is in the womb?
What if it's not in the mother's choice? What if her parents make her do?
Make her get the abortion?
Yeah.
It's a good question. So if you have a 10-year-old who gets pregnant from sexual assault, or even doesn't get pregnant from sexual assault, gets pregnant from not sexual assault, which would be kind of crazy at times. But anyways, if that happens, I guess technically it would still be sexual assault because minors can't consent, even if it was a 10-year-old and a 10-year-old.
No matter what, sexual assault.
Yeah. Even if it was a 10-year-old or 10-year-old, still sexual assault.
It's the same.
Should have clarified that. But anyways, the point is, if the child is forced to get the abortion against her will, she wouldn't be charged. Just like if someone forced a 20-year-old woman who's pregnant to get an abortion by slipping her the abortion pills in her pancakes against her knowledge and against her will, the individual who would be prosecuted in that case, if an equal protection bill had passed, is the individual responsible for the act, which in the case of like a boyfriend slipping the abortion pills in his girlfriend's pancakes would be the boyfriend, not the girlfriend. And so in the case of parents who forced the 10-year-old to get the abortion against her will, the people who would be prosecuted would be the parents, not the child, because she was coerced. Genuine coercion, like threats of violence, fear for life.
So do you believe the 10-year-old has the capacity to make any like decision with the baby, even though they're still a child themselves?
Possibly. So if you had an example of like a 10-year-old who acquired mifepristone and misoprostol, which are the abortion pills, you can take them up to about 11 weeks pregnancy.
Yeah.
And the parents didn't know, say the kid got them from a school counselor. In that instance, you could charge the counselor because she knowingly provided the mifepristone and the misoprostol, assuming with the knowledge that she had that the child was going to take them to terminate the life of the preborn child.
Dang.
And for the 10-year-old, obviously we treat minors who murder someone differently than we treat adults.
Yeah.
In that case, if the minor knew that she was pregnant and she knew that taking those pills would result in the death of her child, would there be consequences? Yes. It would obviously be very, very different, though.
For her?
For her, compared to like a 25-year-old.
Okay.
Right? Because we would treat any minor, any 10-year-old really, who commits a crime like murder very differently than we would an 18-year-old, 19-year-old,
Yeah, like an
20-year-old.
adult.
But essentially all I'm advocating for is applying equal laws and equal protection to children in the womb, because they're equally made in the image of God as people who are out of the womb. And so all of the current laws around having to prove beyond a reasonable doubt regarding coercion, all of them would still apply, and they would just apply in the same way to preborn people as born people.
Okay. Okay, you pretty much answered everything I wanted to know.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. What's your name?
Hayden,
Hayden.
good to talk with you.
Good to talk to you.